You are now listening to the Key Roger W. Jones Executive Leaders podcast series. Today's episode features Brad Bunn and Darrell Williams. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for access to all of Key's online resources, including this podcast series. Thank you both so much for taking the time to speak with me today, and congratulations once again, Brad, on your nomination. And I just want to go ahead and dive in because I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Brianna, just real quickly, how many awardees are there?
So normally there are only 2, but this year we've given out 5.
Okay, very good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So in total, we've over the last 40-something years, 43 years, we've given out 70 awards. And this is the first time that we've ever gone above 2. And I think that really speaks to the caliber of the work that our public servants are doing today, especially with the challenges that we're facing and in so many different ways. So one thing that Roger Jones always championed and pushed for was education for public leaders. And I just wanted to hear both of your thoughts on what do you think about the importance of a lifelong learning path for public servants, and specifically for those who are looking to become leaders.
Brad, I'll defer to you first.
Thank you, sir. So, Brianna, that's a great question. And I know that Mr. Jones exemplified a lifelong learner in all the different roles that he served over his tenure. I would say that the idea of being a lifelong learner is more important now, and I think into the future, than it ever has been. I've been extremely fortunate that I've been given opportunities over my career to not only develop myself through, on the job kind of experiences and, moving around to different roles that really provides a great learning experience and education, but also sponsored education, training, and development by our employer. Whether it be the Department of Defense or the Office of Personnel Management. One thing we do particularly well in the Department of Defense is invest in our people, not just for job training, but for development that prepares them for advancement. I think we take a great cue from our military counterparts in the Department of Defense when it comes to learning and development. And that has certainly been my experience in my current role here at the Defense Logistics Agency, where we actually set aside budget to invest in our people, again, not just to teach them the skills to do their job, but also to develop them for advancement and particularly leadership positions going forward. So all that ties in with importance of succession management and leadership development so that we can continue our important mission is supporting our warfighters.
So, Brianna, I could not agree with Brad more. And I would approach it from both the perspective of my military career and experiences, and then certainly, during my time at the Defense Logistics Agency, dealing with a primarily civilian workforce, although we did have some military. So on the military side of things, from the day that you come into the military, and even before, because you have the Reserve Officer Training Corps program, ROTC, or the Academy program, you are invested in as an individual from both the educational and experiential side of things. And that really follows you throughout your career. And so at almost every level of leadership and new experience, there's a level of education that goes along with that. Even as a general officer, both the Army, which I'm proud to be a part, and all of the services have programs where they invest in their most senior executives. And so I think on the military side, extremely important. Brad kind of talked in great detail about the civilian education program. I've got, several years working very, very closely with our civilian executives and others And I can tell you that it is just as important on the civilian side as it is on the military side of things. I'm of the belief that your experiences can only take you so far, but I think your experience and your effectiveness as a leader is enhanced by the education that you receive. And certainly every time you step up in the level of leadership, authority, management, scope of responsibility, there needs to be a level of education that goes along with that. And I think the Department of Defense, by and large, does a great job.
Thank you. And I think both of your statements kind of lead into my next question. And it's related to what I've been hearing in the other interviews that we've done with the other awardees, and that they often say that, or we often hear that anyone can be a leader and that we're all a leader in our own way. But what do you think separates a leader from an extraordinary leader? Or what do you think makes or turns a manager or supervisor into a leader?
Well, Brad, I guess since you took the lead on the last one, I'll take the lead on this one. And I do believe that there is a certain innate quality that is associated with leadership, but I definitely believed that it is something that can be learned and enhanced over time. You know, I've watched several young leaders, to include myself, become a very different leader later in your career than you were at an earlier point in your career.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that, I think, is related to your experiences over the years, the education that you receive over the years, and the level of investment that others make in you over the years. But there's no doubt that it can be learned. I think it happens every single day. Now, what separates a good leader, I think, from a great leader? And one of the things that I've carried with me throughout my career, and that is, I tried to make the hallmark of my leadership, was this idea that you have to put people first. And so while I was at DLA, I always liked to say that people were the secret sauce of the organization. So one of the things that really separates good leaders from great leaders to me is the level to which the leader cares about the organization, the people in it, and is willing to invest the resources of the organization to take it to another level. The next thing I think that takes it from good to great is establishment of a clear set of priorities for the organization. Find out what it is that really makes the organization tick. And I would tell you, during my time at DLA, it was always clearly the mission. If you ask any employee at DLA, you know, what they do and why they do it, they would most likely tell you that it's to serve the warfighter, those young men and women on the front lines for America all over the world. And that's what they would probably tell you. And so a clear statement of priorities, what the organization stands for, I think, and then being able to invest in the people. For me, it's those two things, and certainly there are others that take it from good to great.
Thank you.
So hard to top that, but what I would add to it, in my experience over the years, which I've had many of the same kind of experiences as General Williams when it comes to, you know, being elevated in different leadership positions where the tactical day-to-day becomes less important than managing people, managing teams, and ultimately the institution. So your focus is not so much on knowing all of the details of the work or engaging in all the details of the work, but it's knowing people. And that leads to the point I would bring up, which is this notion of emotional intelligence, which is something we infused in our leadership development training here at DLA, really from the early part of the program where people are considering whether leadership is for them. Being able to really read your people and understand what drives them and what inspires them and what makes them tick, and adapting your leadership style to those traits, to those kinds of behaviors, having the same leadership style, with every individual being able to perceive those things of your staff and the people that you lead really is kind of a secret ingredient to becoming what I think is a more extraordinary leader.
Thank you. Just one last question before we go is, what do you think makes a public service career unique from other jobs or other career paths? Or do you think it is unique?
Well, I'll start again. And I do think it is unique. And I would tell you that when I was in college, back in the dark ages, my goal going into college was to get a degree in psychology and then get a PhD in industrial psychology and go into, the corporate side of psychology. But I accepted an ROTC scholarship, and there, again, my plan was to spend my 4 years in the military service to pay back my service obligation, and then pursue my dream of being an industrial psychologist. But I think, to your point, what makes it different, I think it's this issue of wanting to serve something greater than yourself. And then at the same time, having a direct tie to service to your nation. And so when it came time for me to exit the service after my initial 4-year obligation, this idea of service to nation and service to a cause greater than yourself was the thing that separated my initial aspirations from what I ultimately chose. That's not to say that you can't serve your nation in a great capacity in other careers. People do it all the time, and I have absolutely nothing but respect for them. But for me, that was the difference. And the fact that every day that I got up and put on my uniform, I was in effect providing a service to my nation was very, very gratifying. And that was the difference for me.
Well, for me, I just to align with those remarks, what is very unique about a career in public service is something that in my role in the human resources business and my interaction with those peers, counterparts in the private sector, they often struggle, particularly with trying to define a culture, organizational culture for their institutions, for their firm, their company. And what the research says is that people are driven by clarity of purpose. And so what has been a hallmark of my career, that has never really been a question for me. And much like General Williams, up in the morning and come to work, although these days going to work looks a little bit different. There's no question about why I do what I do. There are personal reasons. There's obviously, making sure that I'm providing family and those kinds of things. But ultimately, when it comes down to what drives me to put forth that additional discretionary effort on a daily or weekly basis, it's that I'm serving our nation, my fellow citizens. Really something, in my view, magical about taking that oath and being part of an institution that serves something greater than itself. So I think that is the common thread for those who gravitate towards public service and make it a career. It's really about that purpose.
It's been great talking with you both. I just want to say once again, congratulations, Brad and Darrell, for your successful nomination for the Roger W. Jones Award. This year has been really tough for a lot of people, and I think it's nice that we're able to take some time to celebrate the hard work that you all do as public servants. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. And
I appreciate you participating in this. It means a lot to me. Thanks, sir.
Hey, Brad, any time, and Brianne, yeah, you're probably still recording, and but if you can make it of use, I really do want to talk about just mention you know, my professional and personal respect for Brad Bunn, and the fact that his nomination for me was not a pro forma endeavor. It really was because I felt that he deserved it, and that he exemplifies all of those qualities that you laid out as criteria for the award. And you all simply could not have selected anyone better, more professional, or more deserving